Well, welcome to Art in Focus tonight. It's our third event, and so far I think things have been going well, and I think that they're going to just continue to get better. I think we learn something new every time. Um, as is my custom at the beginning of Art in Focus, there's a little bit of information I have both about participating in Art in Focus via Zoom, and also, about things that are going on at South Shore Arts as well. I'll start with the South Shore Arts bit of business. I just want to let everybody know who's watching that we have a new exhibition opening at the end of the month. We have Work, Fight, Give, and it's a exhibition of World War II posters that were, original posters that were used during the war to support the war efforts. So they, promote our efforts overseas. They promote helping other countries. They promote those things which citizens can do to support the war effort. And it's all in celebration of the end of World War II, of the anniversary of the end of World War II. So those will go up on February 3rd, and they'll be open. That exhibit will be open through April 12th. And we also have an exhibit that is now open in the atrium as well. That's a new exhibit. It's our Straight Shooters series. It's a photographer named Matthew Kaplan. He photographs the region, focusing primarily on sort of the close proximity between, residential areas and industrial areas. That shows up, and he'll also, Matthew that is, be our next Art in Focus next month on February 4th. Tonight we have with us Francisco Loyola. Francisco is an artist. He's a community organizer, and he's also the sort of, I think founder is the right word, of a creative space in Kenosha. He's going to talk a little bit tonight about his practice and his engagement with the community in Kenosha. The interesting thing about Francisco, well, let me rephrase that. It's not the interesting thing about Francisco, but sort of one of the coincidences is there's an overlap, right, between Francisco and me. And I'm not going to say that it's like a profound overlap, but Francisco and I have a mutual acquaintance. Some of you may have remembered at some point, I've talked about it occasionally, that I used to work with a fine art print press in Chicago called Anchor Graphics. This is Anchor Graphics. I didn't steal this from Anchor Graphics. They did give this to me when we moved from one location to the next. It used to be on the door to the print shop at one of their previous locations. Well, the couple who founded Anchor Graphics, their names are David Jones and Marilyn Prop. I almost forgot her last name. And they now live in Kenosha, and they do a lot of creative work in Kenosha. And Francisco is familiar with them. So I just thought I'd bring that up. It's kind of neat when these things happen. I don't actually know Francisco personally prior to tonight. Our director of education who put together this year's Art in Focus series, Summer Sheringhausen, she knows Francisco from her time living and working in Kenosha, and she invited him to participate in this program. I think that without, any other, you know what? Before I introduce Francisco, I do want to remind everybody that this is also streaming live on YouTube. If you are watching on YouTube, we are not monitoring the chat. So if you have questions or want to interact directly with Francisco, the best way to do that is to hop on over to the Zoom platform, which you can also find on our website, and click that link, and then you can ask questions throughout the presentation, either using the Q&A feature at the bottom of the screen, or if you want to talk live, if you want to address Francisco or myself directly using your own voice, you can always raise your hand, and I will call on you when there's an appropriate moment during the presentation, and you can ask us directly. I won't put you on camera, so don't be concerned about that. And if you don't want to be put on camera, we will just activate your microphone or allow you to unmute yourself. I think those are the only two bits of housekeeping with regard to the presentation. So I'm going to ask Francisco now to unmute himself and to turn on his camera and join us. All right, and let me get a spotlight on him. There we go. And so now Francisco and I are sharing the screen, and I'm going to turn it over to Francisco and turn off my camera. And Francisco, you're going to let me know when you want that presentation to come up.
Yep. Thank you, Micah. Thank you for the invitation. I'm really excited to be here and a little bit nervous, but let's see how can we communicate what is transpiring in Kenosha and the way that we started with the what I believe is community initiated artwork projects that have been evolving from the last few years. Yeah, probably the best way to do it is you can. Is there any way that you can share the screen with the introduction from Kenosha?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's possible that you can have both of them at the same time.
Was this what you wanted up? I'm sorry.
No, the next one, that will be the Kenosha.
Gotcha.
The reason why I like to use that one is because when I refer about Kenosha, a lot of people don't know exactly where Kenosha is located, or they don't recognize or identify Kenosha. Probably the best way to identify it is there is a mural that we designed this in downtown Kenosha on the main street. The shows the Gremlin. Probably is one of the most famous iconic autos from, I would say, the 1970s. Kenosha was a manufacturing city until AMC and Chrysler left the city in the 1980s. But the city of Kenosha is known by the automotive industry. Also, has been a manufacturing city for years. When they all over the Midwest, and I will say all over the country, economy was transforming, Kenosha became a little bit kind of in the middle of that transformation that they didn't know how to find their place. I will say that Kenosha was trying to find its way for years after the factory left. I believe that the factory leaving Kenosha was probably one of the best things that happened to the city, because it forced the city to diversify. And I believe that that's the reason why there is a great push for what I refer as the creative economy and the new transformation of the city. The city of Kenosha has been described is in the middle of a transformation from economy of hands to economy of brains. So one of the main assets that Kenosha has is location. It's really close to the Michigan, Lake Michigan, between Chicago, between Milwaukee, and really close to the interstate. So transportation has been always a source of great development in Kenosha. But after the city, the factories left, Kenosha started suffering. Like all over the country, the downtown Kenosha at that time was one of the most vibrant downtowns in the area. We have JCPenney's, large storefronts. Kenosha at this moment has a population of 100,000. But in the 1960s and 1970s, the Kenosha had about 5 theaters within about 7 blocks, galleries. It was a really vibrant community until the transformation started affecting it, and the downtown area starting to get more isolated. When I moved into Kenosha and I discovered it by accident, my sister moved into the area and started visiting Kenosha. And one time I got lost and I got into the middle of downtown and I just fall in love with the city. So at that time there were several empty buildings. They made the downtown Kenosha look a little bit empty. That's what I say. I discovered there was a really vibrant community, but all those empty buildings were affecting the impression that Kenosha was given to the world. So you want to move to the next slide, Michael? The way that we started, and again, this was also by accident. We started promoting all those empty businesses, like by creating pop-up galleries. We started creating what we call it the Windows of Downtown project, where we converted, and I believe in 2010, we have about, we say 10 years ago, we had about 14 locations in downtown where we were connecting with local artists, the Kenosha Unified School District, the university, the college, and all of them were participating, and the downtown area became a kind of an open pop-up gallery in the main street. It was not an original idea. This concept started in California with the Phantom Galleries. I just saw that project, and I believe that project will be a good fit for the city. We partnered with the Chamber of Commerce, and that's the way our community involvement started. Next, please, Micah. From there, what we started doing is we started getting more ambitious, and we started doing events on the streets. That picture is from one of the alleys in downtown. We converted into a temporary art exhibit, and that pretty much changed the environment. There was a lot more attention to the downtown area, and the events were starting to take a little bit more activities in these streets. The next one, please, Michael. This is one of the largest projects that we put together. What we did with the connections that we have with all the artists and the organizations gave us the capability to put together a large event. This is in Simmons Island, is in the beach by the Lake Michigan, a beautiful area. And we did a 3-day event with music, art, and activities for all the family. The only way that these projects were able to take place is by the participation of the members of the community. So that created an interaction that we were starting to get more and more involved with the activities happening and how this can help the community. Next, please. Then I think this one, we lost our mind, and we thought that we have some momentum going, and there is an empty building that is still empty in downtown Kenosha, and we decided to make a proposal to the city to convert that building into what we refer as the Kenosha Creative Space. It took about 2 years of fundraising, getting the project all together, and at the same time we will continue with those community activities. Unfortunately, the cost of renovation of the building was more than what everybody was expecting, the city, the architects, etc. So we decided to abandon that ambitious project, and we concentrated in a smaller building they were using as the hub for all those activities that was mentioned. Can I have the next one, Micah, please? So, and with the fundraising, the successfully accomplished, we were able to give the down payment for this building. So the building was purchased on in December of 2017. So we were unable to operate until April of 2018, and we converted into a community center. Still, it took us a long time to get to the point that we are, but what we were learning more and more is the community involvement was the only way that this project will continue evolving. Next, please, Micah.
Actually, Francisco, I want to break in. I don't have a question from anybody who's watching yet, but I do have a question myself,
Okay.
Which is, you showed us some, pretty interesting community projects that you were part of, and then as you put it, you lost your mind, and you found yourself looking to purchase a building.
No, the reason why I say we lost our mind is because it was a group organizations that we were trying to get this ambitious project. We didn't know exactly what we were doing, and when we launched the project, by the way, we received we were granted some amount from federal money to be used for the renovation of the building. But that made the project a little bit more complicated. So the final cost was really expensive and beyond what everybody was expecting, the city, etc. So that's what I refer when we say we lost our mind, because the momentum that we were having gave us the expectation that we will be able to accomplish that project. So,
but I guess I'm also curious, like, the projects you were showing us, while really sort of interesting, were sort of, they were floating. They didn't have a home. There were other sorts of like pop-up exhibits and pop-up events. And then now you look to move from that to a physical space. I'm kind of like curious, like what was the thought process, or like what are the gaps that are sort of missing there? Like you say momentum, but what that momentum look like? Is it like a number of people? Is it response to the programs you'd already done, or the events you'd already organized? Like, how did you move from wanting to be sort of a group that doesn't have a home to a group that does have a home base?
We believe that we were operating in the offices from the Chamber of Commerce and the Kenosha Community Foundation. But I just still think the missing link was to have a home where all the creatives could be meeting, doing activities, and use it as the center of the creativities. So all those in my mind and in my view, all those projects that we started can be amplified, and it can be even more important and more beneficial for the community. So the place, the element that we thought that we were missing was a home, and also it was a place where we can start developing more business activities, and not only being the creative and the art, but what we're trying to do is trying to have a hub that will help us to, similar to, I don't want to call it an incubator, but I think that some of the projects that we have launched have been helped to launch small businesses. They have a creative element. So that's basically the next goal for the space. Our next goal is to continue creating all these projects, but we need to find a way to develop the business side of the equation. as probably most of us are a little bit familiar. As creatives, we are not as involved with the business side until it's needed that we need to pay attention to it. So that was the reasoning behind. We need a place where we can start not only doing the creative part of the activities, but a place where we will become more business-like oriented, that we can become more professional, if you want to call it that way, so that we can be more effective. So that was kind of the reasoning behind them, the idea to have a home.
Gotcha. All right. And did you want the next slide?
Please. So basically, if you want just to go to the next 3 slides, this is kind of the way that we are right now. The Kenosha Creative Space became like this, I say, the hub of the creatives in downtown Kenosha. We have been able to connect with different segments of the community, but we were in a really good place until March of last year. What you saw right there is in the last 3 slides is our gallery that we have been able to have really professional traveling exhibits. Right now, what you're looking at on the screen is our classroom and a community workshop that is we're going to be launching it in February 15. And once the COVID-19 started happening, we didn't know what to do. So you want to come back to the previous slide. No, the previous one. In the other direction. That one. So what we did is we were not considered essential. So we actually had to close down the space for a few months. Once we have an opportunity to start opening, the same gallery that you saw before was converted into a streaming studio, and that's the way that we have continued creating at the space. So we totally moved virtually, again, partnering with other organizations. We partnered with a video studio, lighting and sound company. And I think that we did a really good way to keep the momentum going of the activities that we wanted to continue promoting and producing, but we were totally limited by COVID-19. So, but we were still moving forward. So in March of last year, our second floor, the community workshop and the business center was going to be, we were planning to open it on May, but on March 12th, pretty much everything started going downhill. And March 13th, I never thought that it was going to take this long. I was expecting that probably the lockdown was going to be a few weeks, a few months. So we had to adapt. Basically, that's what and I believe that pretty much you are in the same boat. It's not only Kenosha. I think it's all over the world that we haven't had to adapt to this situation. But it gets more complicated. Now you want to move forward.
Well, real quick, I just want to make a clarification here. This here that we're looking at, this was a streaming studio, you said? So you're streaming events from? Yeah,
basically the gallery was converted into a professional streaming studio. Gotcha. So right now the group that you have in the screen is a group of bluegrass music, but the singer is the wife of the president of Carthage College. So actually that our goal was to try to promote all different styles, all different kinds of music, poetry, art, etc. So I think that we accomplished our goal, but it has been a total different environment that we haven't had to learn. Exactly the same way that you are doing it with these presentations. I think you are learning something new every day, and I think that probably you can relate to when you go live. something is not going to work and you need to start trying to fix it on the fly. But I believe that has given us we discovered something. We are actually were able to generate some revenue through these streaming events, especially during the end of the last few months at the end of the year. So Facebook made a few changes that I think has been make it easier to fundraise through these events. And what we learned is that the creators, musicians, artists are really in need to continue creating, because I believe that once everything starts going, whatever is the new normal, is going to be an explosion of art activities that we need to be ready for.
Yeah. So Francisco, I'm actually going to allow, we have somebody raise their hand, so I'm gonna see if they have a question. So I just allowed, it looks like Taylor to unmute if you'd like.
Hi, Taylor.
Hi there. You have a question?
I guess I was just more clarifying the space evolving from the beginning when you started. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but when you started as the pop-up events for the artists and connecting the community, you're saying that transition and connecting them, you were looking for a space itself for the artists to come to, and then also as a home for the equipment and supplies for your pop-up events. Is that right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And then from there, you're just kind of going through with when the COVID came through and everything got shut down, how you guys had to adapt and you changed just that working space. And now you're really kind of evolved into something different than what you originally created that creative space for.
That's correct. I think we have been forced to adapt to the new environment. I'm not complaining, because I believe that we are doing something in a different shape, but we haven't lost the vision that we have at the beginning. So I think that the only thing that has been changing is the way to operate.
So I guess my question too, with that involvement as the space, how do you see the original mission to where the space has transformed to with the live streaming coming together and merging after what you said, this new beginning that we'll be looking at for in the future?
Yeah, I believe that the original mission hasn't changed. What has changed is the way our mission has been implemented. So we have to learn to use new tools. We have to learn to use new environments, and I believe that this is going to be a good experience once the things can get a little bit back to, like I mentioned. I don't think that we're going to go back to normal, but what the new normal is going to be. So I believe that it was just an evolution that was forced by the circumstances. But I don't believe that we lost track of our mission. We still continue to be the hub disconnecting the creators in downtown and looking for ways to benefit the community.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess from what I gained from it is that your guys are really still supporting and providing something for these artists to still perform and entertain just in this new normal that we're experiencing. So thanks, Francisco. That's all I got.
Thank you, Taylor.
Would you like me to click on the next slide?
Let's go to the next slide, because I think that this is probably the biggest lesson. This is the building that we're ready to operate right now. We're launching some new programs, the business side of the arts, the way they wanted to call it. They will be launched hopefully by the space. The second floor will be open on February 15. But those programs, I hope they will be launched by the first week of April. But if you want to continue to the next screen, the next slide, please, Michael.
Yeah, and I know that the next slide is similar to the classroom space. And so my question about the spaces is this, you talked about the business side. You talked about trying to, what it sounded like to me, maybe attracting some anchor tenants. Is this
basically right here what we have in the screen is our community workshop. Right now, the way I believe that we have been successful, we have launched a few businesses already. And the space is the home of the Kenosha Symphony Orchestra. The Haven Wells, one local musician, artist, just graduated from Carthage College, just opened what is calling the Heavenly Arts Studio, where we are doing community projects with the elementary schools from the area. And we have in the first floor a really successful bookstore that was opened in the middle of the pandemic, and so far has been really successful. It's called Blue House Books. And that's kind of our goal. And we have also another members that come and work on the business and use the space as their home for operating. But that's our main goal. Our main goal is to establish this in a more formal way so that you can use the space. We have right now marketing tools available for a creative. The events that we're putting together are giving a creative really immediate way to test the products, the art, the photography, because what we do when we do all those pub events, we have a really good attendance that will provide the creators with an instant feedback from how they can improve, what they are doing good, or this is not working. We're providing with a home so they can actually run the business from here for the space. And hopefully we're going to have a little bit more technology available in the next few weeks. So I believe that that's the next step. That was our goal. When you were asking me what we were missing, what was the gap? The gap was the place where we can actually come to plan and work together in these projects so that they have they will be more effective and they can be a better plan with and I think that the environment, just working with artists in the same place, is even more motivating. Today we have an event on the first floor that we call it Creative Space, where we have a jam music section, but also we always have a project. The community members can come, paint, or create or work in a project on their own. There are some members that just come to, instead of be working at home or in their studios on their own, they just come and start working at the space and start getting the feedback from the projects they are working. And at the same time that they are being productive, it's a fun environment, and I think everybody enjoys. We have already 3 musical groups that have been formed from those events. And that's our goal. Our goal is to try to launch new projects. So I think that's the beginning of what I call is our completion of the project and the gap that we were missing to fulfill our mission.
Yeah, I don't think enough can be said for like a fun space. You know, the way that you express that sentiment. It's just like all this, you know, the ideas you have and all of the hope that you have for the space after the pandemic sort of lifts, but then like just to sort of say, it's just kind of a fun space. And I think that comes through in the pictures, but I think that sometimes when we talk about long-term goals and business planning,
yep, exactly,
lose that part sometimes. It's nice to hear that that's still part of it for you.
And what I feel we have accomplished is what you can see is the equipment. We have the community responded. All these 5 cabinets, tables, chairs, etc., have been donated by Snap Home. This is one of the largest manufacturers in Kenosha. So I think that they are responding to positive to what we are doing. Yeah, but then things change. If you want to move into the next one, I think that this is probably the biggest lesson that we learn. This changed my way to look at everything. I never expected in Kenosha we were going to have something, some events that were happening. It looks totally surreal and out of place. After the shooting of Jacob Blake, the protests and the riots that took place in the next 2 days were really devastating for the community. We were already in the middle of a pandemic, and then we have these events. I think that really affected the outlook from a lot of the businesses, a lot of the organizations, and even the community in general. So what you have seen right now on the screen is actually the used cars lot. They became kind of the symbol of what happened, because they were about probably 50 cars that were on fire, and you could see listen to the explosions. You want to move to the next one, Micah, please? So this is what happened in the devastation about the second day. So what we did, we worked together with some organizations. We're located in downtown Kenosha, and there is a Main Street organization that runs the Downtown Kenosha Inc. So as a way to protect that this could not happen again, after these events took place, there was a call for volunteers. So all the buildings in downtown Kenosha were boarded up, covered with plywood, so they can be protected. The result of that was the whole downtown looked like a ghost town. Everything looked dark, etc. So and it was a really, really bad 2 days. So you want to go to the next one, Michael, please? So what we did is, and it happened by accident. Pretty much a lot of the things that we do are not planned the way that they take shape. They are in an organic way, and I think that we just respond to that organic way. There were two businesses that painted the plywood with some murals, and when we were finished this boarding the building, there is an organization in town. This called Heart of Kenosha, and they were passing by, and they spray paint the heart, and love is the answer. So that's basically the way that the thing came. What I did is just give it a little bit more shape to the heart. I was trying to paint the letters, but we didn't have time. It was to make something more artistic, if you wanted to. What we did, we did that mural was painted by an African American family that was passing by, and we just gave them the tools, and that's what they came with them, the painting, the mural. I believe that this is probably the most meaningful to me, because it was they were hard, and when they were painting it, they thanked me because they say that they needed a way to express what they have inside themselves, and they gave me a hug. I will never forget, because it was kind of really emotional to do that. So I think that it will be important for us to use this in a more positive way. All the media from all over the world was in town, transmitting a really negative message about my community. So pretty much they were just concentrated into showcasing the damage, showcasing the protest, And what I believe they took them by surprise is the community response. Can you go to the next one, please, Michael? What we did is we have a call for art. That was the second day of the riots. So once all the buildings in downtown were covered, basically that's the way that they look, all the buildings. So I invited one of my friends as a local artist, and she put that call for art. Say, help us to paint. The theme is love. Let's cover our downtown with messages or images, the love, hope, and unity. Everybody is welcome. Donations, the paint are also welcome. That happened probably about 6 o'clock in the morning. The first thing that was really impressed is we had to cover all the buildings in downtown with the plywood boards. I believe that is something that will be really hard to accomplish in other circumstances, because we covered all the buildings in downtown with the help of volunteers, from the call came at 8 o'clock in the morning, and by 6 p.m. every single building in downtown was protected. So that we have a lot of canvas. My goal was just to try to paint a few murals. That was in the evening. The morning, on Wednesday morning. You want to go to the next one, please, Michael? We started having this kind. You can advance the next few slides. This is one of my favorites right there, because the call for artists was a great response. But what I believe that make it even more meaningful is the families coming to paint, because they were afraid. We were afraid, and we needed kind of a way to express those feelings. And we got artists that came, and you will see some of the murals, but the community came strongly together. We lost track of how many plywood murals were painted, because it was uptown and downtown. We were trying to document everything, but I think that we lost track when we were over probably 850 murals, and they were changing constantly, because they were painting and they were painting in the different messages, and I will expand a little bit in a second. You move to the next one, please, Michael. This is one of the things that was also really impressive. The murals were used to, the community was afraid. That was probably one of the most poignant murals they have seen. They have a family painting, have the kids painting a mural, but the family that live upstairs asked them to put that sign, kids live upstairs, because that was the sentiment that we have there. We need to actually let people know that the people are living there. But you have a lot of different messages with the murals, but that's the one that for me was really impressive. If you move to the next one, please, Michael. We have, I will say, that different responses to the way or the message that was going to be the message the murals were going to transmit. Kenosha Strong became kind of the tagline for the murals, and it was taken for different groups in different directions. It became really political, and it became a little bit divisive. So we had murals, for example, like this, the artistic with a message. And please go to the next one, Michael.
I was actually
sorry.
Look through the. No, I'm not on mute. So I've looked through these images, and I can't remember where this ends up, but I'm noticing like anybody's coming out, right? Mm-hmm. On these of all different skill level.
Yep.
And, something I think that's kind of kind of touching about that this was sort of like open to the community as a whole, and you attracted all sorts of different people and artists. I'm also kind of curious, like, did these stay up? Did they get moved? Did they get painted over? Like, what was sort of, and I can't remember if the next image tells me, but like, what happened to the life of these?
They are still up. That mural is still up. They came down for a few days, but after the announcement of the decision of the district attorney, they were up again. So there is going to be a community effort again to take down the boards on January 27, 28, and 29, because we're going to need probably at least 3 days just to remove all the boards. It's going to be again another community effort to just to remove them. But they are still up. The murals became not only the conversations that were taking place, but they became kind of a sign of the bias of the side that you weren't looking at these events. Business owners were divided because they wanted to remove the plywood murals because they thought that was affecting their business. I believe it's true, but also it was just giving the right to live on fear, and they were ready to protect their businesses. There was a movement to try to arm local businesses, and teaching how to use a gun and having shooting classes in downtown. So that was the extreme. There was another group that no, they decided to use it, and the murals actually generated a lot of attention. They have been receiving worldwide attention. We have been receiving requests from Australia, New Zealand, and France for interviews about the murals. But they thought that they were attracting people into their businesses. So it was kind of really different points and opinions about what will be the next step with the murals. Still today, there is no agreement of what we should do with them once they are removed.
All right. So did you want the next slide, you said?
Yes, please. Then what it happened is, like I say, we have the community involvement, but then we started receiving inquiries from artists from all over the country. This artist is a graffiti artist that came from California. They actually was about to be arrested because he was painting after the curfew, and the police department didn't like the style of his mural because they thought it was more graffiti than art. But he came all the way from California and spent about 3 days helping to paint the murals. Can you go to the next one, please, Michael? This is a really good example of the other kind of messages. The messages are starting to become political, and even some of the authorities were kind of concerned about the way that the message was going to evolve. I think that this is probably we were fortunate. We decided to go with the theme, the love is the answer, because if we go with Black Lives Matter, we could have probably the most powerful exhibit of outdoor art, protest art, but it will be really controversial, and it will have created more division in the town. The way they took place. The love is the answer became kind of a middle ground because the conversations were around this. Yes, we're divided. Yes, we are polarized. But if we don't accept each other, and we don't, that's what I think the love is the answer became important. We were not able to have conversations that need to take place because we cannot even talk to each other. So I think that that's what the murals became a living mirror of what is going to be the community, the way the reaction to the events that took place in Kenosha. That was kind of the reflection of them. What I see in my view, the display of the message from the murals. Can you go to the next one, please, Michael? Then we have, for example, we have about 5 artists that I will say that came from also from all over the country. Roberto Marquez. Roberto Marquez is an activist that has been traveling with every time that there is a social problem. He has been traveling with them to the border when there is a confrontation with the immigrants. And he came and I didn't know that he came from Texas. He just came and he asked me if he wanted to paint a mural, and we gave him a place, and then we started learning more about him. So he was supposed to be here only one day. He ended up spending with us about 2 weeks. We became really good friends, and we are working on different projects. But I believe that he's one of the most accomplished muralists that came into town, and his murals became really important. That mural has to be removed from the walls because the building owners didn't like the fact that it was depicting some of the 7 bullets, and they thought it was too political, and it has to be removed from the building. And it was donated by Robert to one organization in Milwaukee for Black Lives Matter organization. But that was I don't know how to call it, the impact, the events that took place in Kenosha, and the response with the murals was having across the country. Can you go to the next one, please? So, sorry, I have a technical situation here. Just give me one quick second. Can you hear me well, Micah?
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you hear me, Micah?
Yes, yes, I can. Uh-oh, are we having that problem again?
Hello?
Yeah, we had this problem earlier when we signed.
Okay, now I can. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
This is probably what I think it was also one of the influential developments. Jamie Brown on the left and Karim Jabari, Jamie is from Kenosha, but they have been living in Tunisia, Russia, Dubai. Karim on the right side is considered one of the top 30 muralists in the world. He is also considered one of the 5 calligrapher artists. So you see the mural on the right is just a mural that is in Arabic. It means we are all one. And they were on his way to Jamestown to paint a commission mural, and they just stopped here in Kenosha just to make a contribution. Can you go to the next one, please, Michael? This is kind of the contrast that I say. We went from the world-class muralists to families painting the plywood as a reaction, as a community response. The in my view, what we did is we didn't want to let the violence define what we were. And the message changed totally. The press, the coverage that we were having from Kenosha starting getting more into the community response. And I believe that that's actually the most important message that I learned. Changed my view, because what I think is this. Art is important, but the role that the art has in the community, this was amplified to me, the message, because I don't think that we'll be able to see the project the same way after experiencing this situation. The art is so powerful. In this case, they gave the community a way to deal in a positive way with one of the most traumatic experiences that we have experienced in Kenosha. And this is actually the picture that I like, because this family, the kids were really afraid at home. They were asking, what is happening? And her man just called us and he said, can I bring them? And say, sure. So they came, and the kids enjoyed the participation. I believe they were more relaxed after being part of this project. So, and what I will say, the spectrum for these kids to world-class muralists working together in a project, I believe that that's what, for me, the importance of the arts in the community. Can you go to the next one, please, Michael? Basically, what it did, it changed also because this is our building now. Jamie and Karim wanted to do a contribution more permanent to Kenosha. So we had that wall, and what they did, they created this large mural that has been really, I will say, it has brought a lot of at the spotlight again in downtown Kenosha. The mural is called Kenosha, and what they did is they went back to the roots of Kenosha. That's the Indian name from the city of Kenosha, Kenosha. So, and the way that they are trying to describe this mural is the Kenosha has gone from back to the roots, and we're going into the direction that we need to be more connected with everything and the way we are. Can you go to the next one?
Yeah, just so you know, Francisco, we're coming very close to that 8 o'clock point.
Okay, let's you want to just go to the next one. You can see the other side of the mural, and the last one is our building the way that looks today. So
and so just clarification, this is your building, right? The creative space.
That's correct. This is the Kenosha Creative Space. And these projects open the door for some larger projects that we're working and planning to implement this year.
I mean, I imagine you must be like really, I mean, I don't know, I think proud's the right word. I mean, just to think about those initial sketches that you had for the first space you thought you were going to be in, they looked very polished. And then you ended up with a building that maybe wasn't as big or wasn't as flashy, but it became your home, and you have these beautiful programming spaces inside, and then now look at the outside of your building, how gorgeous it is.
Yeah, I think in a good way, I believe that we got lucky, because the other building was larger. We were needed to partner with more organizations. It will be more expensive to maintain. And I think that given the economic circumstances created by COVID-19, we will be in a really bad situation if we were in that building. So I think that this became more manageable, right? And became the Kenosha Creative Space. So I think that that's all the presentation they have. Like I told you, what I wanted to do is just to give you in a kind of a conversation of my feelings and the experience that we have with these events taking place in Kenosha.
That's that was a whole range of emotion in a 1 hour presentation, Francisco. I want to ask, we have some people that are listening and watching. Are there any questions that Francisco can ask, or excuse me, answer? Does anybody have anything they'd like to ask Francisco? I mean, perhaps everybody's just a little emotionally raw, a little bowled over by what they had to see. It's pretty shocking sometimes to think about all those things just happening in communities so close to ours.
Yep.
Hours from Kenosha tops. I said it when I've been saying it all along. It's just this opportunity this year to speak with creative people, people who are really invested in their community, who aren't necessarily in Northwest Indiana, has been really great. And this is no exception. Just to be able to sit and chat with you for an hour, Francisco, and see your work in your city has been a really sort of beautiful way to spend my evening. So I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you for the invitation.
No, you're welcome. You're welcome.
And you have my contact information. If anybody has any questions, please feel free.
We will, and I know Summer is still on. So as everybody knows, Summer Sheringhausen is our Director of Education. Excuse me, her contact information is on our website. And so if you do want to get in touch with Francisco, or you needed any information about the creative space, the Kenosha Creative Space, by all means, please get in touch with us. I'm just going to say thank you to Francisco one more time, and remind everybody that in a couple weeks, on February 4th, we'll have Matthew Kaplan here to talk about our region. It'll be back to a little bit of the more regional fare, and his photographs that are currently up in South Shore Arts at the Center for Visual and Performing Arts. They're in the atrium. It's a wide open space for anybody who doesn't know, and it's fairly well suited for viewing art in a safe manner, with lots of distance between people and tall ceilings. So if you're feeling up to it, please come by the center and take a look. But other than that, I think that's everything. And I think we'll call it a night. So thank you, Francisco. And remember, tell people if they missed it that they can go to the South Shore Arts YouTube channel, and all of our presentations are going to be archived there. And same goes for you, Francisco. You can go over there and direct people there. You're welcome. So good night, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ah.